Talent show judge Brian Mcfadden and his pal Kyle Sandilands have been questioned by federal police over claims of a ruckus on a flight from Los Angeles to Sydney. Witnesses say Mcfadden was smoking and abusing flight attendants and had to be restrained by Sandilands, but both denied doing anything wrong when they spoke exclusively to 9 News at the airport this morning.
With the regulation sunglasses and rock star attitude, Kyle Sandilands and Brian Mcfadden swept into Sydney Airport. Bad boy behaviour, which apparently began on a bumpy flight from LA.
Yeah, there was a bit of turbulence about 4 hours in.
Smoking on the plane?
I don't smoke.
No run-in with the air hostesses on the plane?
Run-in with air hostesses?
You didn't light up a cigarette on the plane?
Light up a cigarette on a plane? That's illegal.
Darling.
In steps big brother Kyle, the radio shock jock also denying there was any bother on board.
He hasn't done anything, I just told you that.
What is certain is that the crew on board radioed asking federal police to meet the flight when it landed. Officers spoke with 2 men on board. No formal complaint was made by V Australia and both men were released without charge. One passenger told me Brian was, quote, wasted. Another says he heard airline staff complaining about the singer. But whatever happened on flight VA2, it certainly sent Twitter into overdrive. Dear England, we will take Liz Hurley back if you can stop Brian Mcfadden from coming here. Delta Goodrum was quick to jump to her fiancé's defence. Whatever people have said that happened, didn't. And finally, this afternoon, a response from Mcfadden. Wasn't arrested, didn't smoke on the flight and the Virgin staff were very nice. I did have a few drinks, but I was not smashed and abusive. Dimity Clancy, 9 News.
Good evening, I'm Matt White and thanks for your company. First tonight, the mystery behind Brian Mcfadden's so-called mid-air meltdown on a flight from LA to Sydney. He says it never happened. He was not drunk, disorderly or abusive. And his mate Kyle Sandilands is scoffing at claims he had to restrain him. But there was a complaint from airline staff and Mcfadden was spoken to by federal police. And tonight, Brian Seymour has an exclusive eyewitness account from a passenger who was on board.
Brian was in the business lounge with Kyle. I didn't know who they were.
G'day, Kyle. Mate, it's Brian from Channel 7. Did you have to restrain Brian?
No. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
But where is Brian now? Is that Brian in the back there?
Kyle Sandilands sped off with best friend Brian Mcfadden in the back of his Bentley, but only as far as the local shops, where he bought a paddle pop. That's where we caught up with Mcfadden.
We got off the plane and the federal police were there and they asked to step aside and ask some questions and said, have you been smoking on the plane?
This was Brian Mcfadden this morning, fresh off a flight from Los Angeles.
A bit of turbulence about 4 hours in.
Smoking on the plane?
I don't smoke. Someone on the plane had said they heard me saying I was smoking in the bathroom on the plane, and they took from that I had been.
Just minutes ago, we interviewed American passenger Stephen Walker, who was sitting near Mcfadden and Sandilands on the plane.
Brian was talking to the person behind the desk about where were we supposed to go, what were we supposed to do. It was very crowded, there weren't seats. He was actually quite concerned about the woman with the baby.
You didn't light up a cigarette on the plane?
Light up a cigarette on a plane? That's illegal.
Early reports claimed Mcfadden had a meltdown and went on a rampage, abusing staff and passengers in business class where he sat and in economy class, all fuelled by an excess of alcohol.
I was asleep for most of the flight, got off and I got a shock. Yeah, I had a couple of drinks on the plane, I'm not going to lie about that. I like a couple of drinks on the plane, but I definitely wasn't making a scene or causing any problems for anybody. And I 100% did not smoke on the plane. It takes a lot more than a couple of drinks to get me drunk. I'm an Irishman.
We asked Walker if Mcfadden was drunk, abused staff or passengers, smoked on the plane.
Certainly no havoc or shouting or jumping around or I don't smoke. I'm sensitive to smoke. If I had smelled smoke, I would have noticed it.
Virgin Airlines in a statement confirmed there was an incident but would not provide any details. The Australian Federal Police issued a press release saying 2 men were questioned. No charges were laid and they were allowed to leave Sydney Airport.
Are you concerned or worried about this moniker that some in the press have attached you of being a bad boy? Of being
a bad boy.
Well, I'm not saying you are, but that's...
No, I get it, but the only thing I am... No, I'm not a bad boy. The thing that's embarrassing for me is it's more embarrassing for Delta and my family, and that's what I hate, you know? If I smoked on the plane, I would have admitted it. You know me, if I say something, I say things on Twitter, I stand by it. If I had got really drunk and made a fool of myself and smoked the plane, I'd stand forward and say it.
What an idiot. I think Brian McFadden, honestly, he needs to just behave himself and try and show us what he's good at, because I'm not sure what that is at the moment.
News Limited columnist Ros Raines has had very public spats with McFadden. Any love was lost during their Twitter rage rants last July.
Everyone in the industry I've met thinks you're a horrible, sneaky pig.
Unfortunately, McFadden is also a misogynist, a woman hater.
McFadden also earned scorn for telling this Australia's Got Talent contestant.
He looked at me, he said, "Why don't you just back to England?" and he walked off.
There have also been rages against Delta Airlines in America and his ex-wife, Kerry. Today, Brian's current fiancée, Delta Goodrem, let fly at his critics.
He is fine. He's just disappointed when people make things up. Whatever people have said that happened, didn't. Slow news day.
Well, not really. It's not every day the pop star fiancé of Delta Goodrem is met at the airport by the federal police. Apparently, his salvation appeared in an unlikely form.
Are you grateful to have a friend like Kyle there to help you out in this situation?
Yes, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's just a big misunderstanding.
From what I understand, Kyle was a stabilising influence and tried to restrain Brian. So, I think Kyle's really looked after his mate in this circumstance.
Have you seen what the press has been saying already? I mean, I can show you the articles if you like. Just have a quick read of these.
All right.
This is what News and Fairfax are reporting, if you can have a quick read of those.
Restrained by Kyle Sanders.
Yeah.
Rampage.
So Kyle basically saved you on this Virgin International flight.
Wow.
Here we go.
Nah, none of that's true.
This was serious enough, whatever happened, for the captain to radio ahead. They don't do that for no reason.
Radio 3AW talkback host Neil Mitchell says in this case, where there's smoke, there must be fire.
If Kyle Sandilands is trying to settle you down, you've really crossed a line.
Were you inebriated?
No. Look, I'm an Irishman. I drink a lot of drink, all the time for a long time. It would take a lot more than a couple of vodkas to get me drunk on a plane. You can ask anyone, even ask Delta, and she doesn't drink, she'll tell you.
That's Brian Seymour reporting.